Good evening, I am Tomas Guevara, and this is your channel, Rewriting Reality. Subscribe to get to know yourself better and improve your life. Today's episode is titled, Chakras, the 8 Energy Centers, Part 2. In view of the hundreds of requests to clarify the previous episode about energy centers a little more, I will gladly explain these centers with more analogies to clarify any doubts you may have. At the center of the image you are observing, we can see hundreds of galaxies. That is, it is a view of the universe. And the universe is all we can touch, feel, perceive, measure, or detect. It encompasses living things, planets, stars, galaxies, dust clouds, light, and even time. Before the universe was born, there was no time, space, or matter. And as the Bible says, there was only the verb. And the verb is action, is consciousness, in short, the universal consciousness. So, imagine that the universal consciousness is God. Now observe the black box surrounding the screen, that is the interpretation of our connection with the universal consciousness. The white box represents regional area number 2, that connects you with your dreams, inspirations, and all the human knowledge. The image in full colors at the center represents your essence, your soul, or your spirit, and that it encompasses all the information and knowledge of the universal consciousness. You can even call this image, as mentioned above, your soul or your spirit or simply your own consciousness. In the previous episode, and to continue with the religious beliefs assigned to the chakras, we gave a location of these energy centers and how we can visualize them. Like circles of energy. Now you are seeing the image that shows us our body and its consciousness, and we could very well affirm that our body swims in our consciousness, and that there is no separation between our body with our essence and with the universal consciousness. The energy centers or chakras are real and can be visualized and manipulated. However, it must be understood that their manipulation in an objective way is not as efficient as subjective manipulation. Think about your home and you will recognize that your house has many electrical outlets. Even in a room, there may be more than one outlet. And therefore, you can connect various electrical appliances to these outlets. Your home also has a breaker box or fuses that allows you to use 2 types of electric current. The same applies to our body, and each chakra can be considered as an outlet, to which various organs of our body are connected, depending on what we want to create in physical or abstract form as our thoughts. We as human beings have an intent, which is what moves us through our lives. That intent we can call purpose. Although purpose is a very limited word to define our intent. Let me give you an example of an intent. Nowadays any father or mother would love to have a son or daughter playing soccer, and this desire is known by whoever decides to come to this dimension and be the son or daughter of these parents. So, the one who come with an intent in soccer, but he may not necessarily be interested in being a soccer player, and therefore he is not going to be a Messi or a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Keylor Navas. He could become a soccer player for fun only, or he could become a coach, leader or sports manager and contribute something to soccer. At the level of soccer federations and at the level of FIFA itself, we have witnessed several cheaters who have come to steal, but this is also a contribution, although not a very good contribution. But it influences and makes us act in this regard to correct these supposed errors, because they are not errors, they are events that call our attention to improve. Our body or our organs have no intent, both are manipulated by the inner self, or the subjective self. You objectively do not decide to breathe, or tell your legs to walk. This is done by the subjective self, using simultaneous communication to each cell of each organ, and at the same time communicating these instructions to the brain. That's why sometimes you realize that you breathe and that your heart is beating. But you usually don't pay attention to these subjective communications. Obviously, objectively, you can modify your breathing and heartbeat, but this will only be for a very short period of time. Then everything will go back to your routine. In this routine, unfortunately, we will find our beliefs. I say unfortunately because most of us consider them to be absolute truth. Once, a friend told me that he had erection problems because he was diabetic. And he considers this belief an absolute truth, and therefore affects the orange energy center, and consequently he will never have an erection, unless he takes a Viagra. And Viagra will work only if he thinks that's the remedy for him. The same goes for high blood pressure, and doctors will confirm that you will need to take pills for the rest of your life to control high blood pressure. You will start with 5 milligrams, then move to 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams, 30 milligrams, or 40 milligrams daily. Everything will depend on the medication. Now, the real problem of high blood pressure is worries, and worries stem from our inability to solve our problems. We don't know how to solve our problems, precisely because we concentrate on problems, when we should leave this task to the subjective self, or inner self. When we concentrate on a problem, our brain thinks, and thinks without resting on the problem, and usually does not find a solution. But as Confucius said, if the problem has a solution, why worry about it, and if it has no solution, why worry? To solve any health problem, it is advisable to manipulate these energy centers. The exercises that you can find on the internet can serve you. You should just know that this solution is temporary, because as long as you do not resolve your frustrations, fears, or anger, these centers will continue to unbalance and affect your health. In an upcoming episode, one will provide you with some exercises to deal with frustration or anger.